All right. So I guess we're ready to get started here. Well, welcome to our collaboration workshop with the University of Tampa. My name is Tony Armour, co-founder of the Sunscreen Film Festival.
And I'm Doug Tschrihart, Program Director for Sunscreen Film Festival.
And so this is our 20th year for the festival. And as a matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, we just announced all of the films that are in the festival at the end of April for the 20th year here. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, 224 films we programmed this year.
Which I'm not sure how that's possible to do that many films
know.
in 4 days, but
we do it.
Well, we have 4 screens that run simultaneously, so that makes a big difference. Like some festivals, you only have 1 or 2 screens, and so you can only do so many.
And my topic I always talk about is the shorter your film, the more shorter films we have, like under 12 minutes or whatever, the more you can put in a time slot, so you can fit more in.
Yeah, so of the 224 that we have, 145 are short films, right?
Yeah, I think shorter,
like,
some are medium length.
Yeah, 19 features, 5 or 6 kind of in that 25-minute range. Combination of narrative, documentary, animation. I think we have 72 films from the state of Florida, 42 or 44 local films, as in like kind of Tampa Bay area local films. So
yeah,
quite a lot.
It's a good. I mean, we had a lot. It was hard to choose. We had 700 submissions.
Yeah, and so of 700 submissions, we're still accepting in that close to 30% range of films, which is kind of high for a festival.
I think it's very high. I mean, I've heard some are like 10%.
Yeah, a lot of film festivals will only accept maybe 10%. Yeah. Some, you talk about like a Sundance, they're literally under 1%.
Oh yeah.
Of
the bigger ones
films
are always like Tribeca
like
and all
that.
those even are like
those types of festivals, you have to have some sort of connection to the festival.
And they buy a lot of their films too from distributors, I think sometimes.
Yeah, depending.
Whatever those are called.
Depending on that. So I guess maybe one way to start is we'll kind of talk about sort of how festivals do their programming and sort of the philosophy of how all that works down. We can talk specifically about Sunscreen, about how we do it, but then we'll also talk about how we know other festivals do it as well. And so I guess it may be obvious, but we'll state the obvious on a few different things. So if you are a filmmaker and you've made a film, the first question is, okay, now what? How do I get it out to film festivals? And so there are these online platforms. FilmFreeway is probably the most well-known and widely used one, where you just upload your film, upload your poster, trailer, information, and all that info into film.
Makes it pretty simple, even as a filmmaker, I've used it on that side too.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy. You just put your information in.
And it's free.
And it's free, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You create an account, and then you go in and say, I want to go on this festival, and that's when you have to.
And it's free for the filmmaker, and it's free from the festival side. Yep. And then the way that FilmFreeway makes money is they get a piece of every transaction. Every time you submit to a festival, they take a piece, and then they're getting it from both sides. They get it from the filmmaker that submits, and they're getting it from the festival because they're taking a piece away.
I'm in the wrong business.
I know.
We should have started that.
Well, and years ago, there was a platform called Without a Box. So
that's right. I remember that. Yeah, that was early on.
So when we first started Sunscreen, founded in 2005, first festival in 2006. Without a Box was pretty much it. That was the only way to do it.
I think that was the only one. I don't remember.
And it was when you first started out, like as a festival, like you had to pay them $500 just to get listed, and it was really wonky. I mean, just think of websites 20 years ago alone, and it was bad for 20 years ago website for being able to manage it. And then because it was such a poor experience, FilmFreeway came along and basically upended the business, and Amazon ended up buying Without a Box. And then a few years later, just shut it down because it wasn't. Yeah. It just wasn't manageable. So, anyways, that's how filmmakers submit to festivals. And you go on to FilmFreeway, and there are 14,000 film festivals from around the world listed on FilmFreeway, and they'll break it down by Oscar qualifying festival, top 100 reviewed festivals, which Sunscreen is one of the top 100 rated festivals out of 14,000, and rated by filmmakers that attend the festival, saying, what they think about the festival. So that's not us making that up. That's other people, which is always nice.
I say that, and then I go, I hope they don't think I just made that up for.
Yeah, no,
it's no, we actually do.
It is, and so we try and make it a filmmakers festival, really take care of the filmmakers and care about the filmmakers and their experience. And so you get your film up on FilmFreeway. You search through all the different festivals, documentaries. You can search by time of year. You can search by location. There's all these different parameters.
And there's also themes sometimes. I always tell people, like, whatever your movie's about, if it, certain, because there are just comedy festivals, or there are just Christian for faith-based festivals,
horror, whatever
Jewish, like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's urban, and I always tell people, like, don't just apply because even the Sunscreen, like, even local people, I say, go to one of the ones in the area. You probably will get in. You might get in, but look and actually see what audience is your film for, right? You want to know what your audience is, and look in FilmFreeway for that, and apply to the ones because you have a better shot of getting in.
And there are a couple of other platforms. There's one called Fest Home, and that's like a European-based one. And so I think that mostly European filmmakers use.
Yeah, I think we have an account, but we didn't really use it. But
no, I mean it's
maybe
to use more than as a fest from the festival side. If you're using more than one platform, it's just too much work.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, no, because then you got people have to log in and
So once your film is kind of in FilmFreeway, and then you're scrolling and you're trying to find festivals, then it's like, okay, now what do I do? How do I find festivals? And I think a lot of people will say, okay, well, I'm going to submit to Sundance and Tribeca and South by Southwest and like all the big ones that they know of, right? But the problem with that is, one, it can be very expensive because you have to pay to submit to festivals.
Yeah, and
it can add up.
Some of those are like over $100 just for one film.
Yeah, especially the bigger festivals, they charge more. And they're getting, 10,000 films submitted to them. And so that's the way, I joke around and say, when people say, I want to submit my film to Sundance, I was like, or you can just give me $100 and I'll crumple it up and throw it in a garbage can, because that's the exact same, that's the exact same thing. But people always feel like, well, I want to take that shot just in case my film makes it. But then it really is one of those things where if you are serious about submitting to Sundance, you need to take a look and see, okay, what films did Sundance accept last year? Whether you're a feature or short film filmmaker, right? Take a look at the films that Sundance took from a feature perspective and really evaluate and say, okay, of these films, how many of them had representation at a major talent agency before they were sent to the festival?
100%.
Yeah.
It's like 90-something percent.
How many of them? Because what happens is the WMEs and CAAs of the world, what they'll do is they have their films they represent, and they're in direct communication with Sundance saying, hey, we want this to be a Sundance premiere or whatever it might be, and they're negotiating. And so all of those slots are really taken, by, I don't consider Sundance an independent film festival.
No. And one thing I've noticed, like I think last year, the year before, people don't realize that a lot of the actors that we know do short films. Like Will Ferrell was one that we had. And so a lot of times, though, like you said, they get represented and it's Will Ferrell, okay, well, that's going to go in before, my movie that might not have any real big talent, or if they do, it's like a B actor.
Yeah, and when you like a festival like Sundance has 10,000 films to watch, it's not the head programmer that's watching all those. No. It's like a whole bunch of other people, and so it has to get recommended and reviewed and kind of worked through. And so there's a lot of people watching those films, and it's just it's such a small percentage. People want to say, well, I'm going to shoot my shot. But you also have to be very self-aware of your own film. Like, really take a look at your film and be like, do I really think this is good enough to be in Sundance?
Yeah.
Look at the other films that have been in, shorts, features, everything else, and really, take your... And it's part of the reason Sundance, if they're charging $100 times 10,000 films, is my math correct? That's $1 million, right?
Yeah. 100,000. No, 100,000.
Add 2 zeros to 10,000.
Yeah, you're right.
$1 million.
Yeah.
We're not math wizards.
I was going to say, I'm in the film business, not in the math business.
So they make $1 million a year off of people just sending their films to them.
Just from that, though.
Yeah.
Just from that.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
And not putting down Sundance by any means, but just trying to be realistic for filmmakers.
You have to know your audience, and you have to know what your film is, for sure. Not that your film may be beautiful and really good and tell a great story, but it may not even get to the head programmer at those kind of festivals. Because it, like you said, it needs to go through several channels, and I'm sure the head programmer probably only watches, couple hundred of those.
It's hard to do. And then, the same kind of thing, even, if you're looking at, you look at Sunscreen, take a look at the previous year's schedule. What did they accept last year? What kind of films were they taking? Okay, we can see that they obviously like Florida films. I'm a Florida filmmaker. They took films from the UK and Germany and other areas, so that, international films as well. Evaluate that for any festival that you're looking at. And honestly, some of the festivals that you don't think you know the names of can be really great experiences. You may meet a lot of really good people.
I said it earlier today when we were talking, but I'll say it for these guys. Again, look outside your box too of your local festivals. I think a lot of people are really think, oh, I'm gonna get all these festivals locally. They'll probably accept me because I'm local. That means I'll have laurels. But to me, I look at a poster and I see all the laurels. If it says Florida, New York, Canada, it has different things. To me, it almost means more in the end than just saying, I've been at all the Florida festivals that are in the area or whatever.
Yeah, and welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Hi. When you are reviewing and kind of going through FilmFreeway or FestHome or whatever platform you're trying to decide what festivals you're going to go to, before you send to a festival, you have your director statement in there. You've got the information about your film.
Fill everything out.
Don't leave stuff blank, because festivals really, when a film comes in and we're reviewing it, we're looking at, the first thing we do, we see a film come in, it's, Joe Schmo's film, XYZ. And we scroll down and we start looking at all the stuff. Before we watch the movie, we're looking at, okay, what's the director's statement? What statement do they have about the film?
What kind of movie is it?
What kind of movie is it?
And that's one thing, a lot of times they don't put the genre in there, which I don't ever understand why. But to me, that helps everybody because, certain screeners of mine don't want to watch horror movies. So
Sure.
I don't want to send them one because they'll give it a bad review.
Yeah.
So it helps if you fill, that's why I'm like, just fill everything out the best you can. Even if it's more than one genre, put it in there, because it also helps us on our end with the tagging and keeping track and organizing, films from the get-go.
Yeah, because when a film comes in, we look at it, and the first thing we do before we watch it is we have a whole long list. We can add tags to everything, and so we'll look at it and be like, okay, this is a female directed or produced film. We want to be aware of that and make sure that we know about that, because we pay attention to those things and we try and have a diverse set of programming. It's like, okay, what's the genre? Okay, this is a horror. This is a documentary. It's local. It's Florida. Okay, maybe this is a sports themed, film. Whatever it might be, we have all these different tags so that we can sort and look. And then thematically as we're putting things together. And then super important as well is the cover letter. You have the option when you're submitting your film, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, to write a little note to the filmmakers.
Tell us who you are.
We 100% read
before.
every single cover letter that is included in FilmFreeway, and I know other festivals do too, when they're submitting to the festival. And it makes a difference. If in there it says, my aunt lives in St. Pete, and I used to come when I was a kid, and I would love to come back down again if we screened at Sunscreen, and I would stay at my aunt's house, and I would 100% be there because I love the area. Whatever it might be,
It definitely helps.
It does. Or even if it's just a personal note, saying, hey, I've never been to the festival, but, I've seen a lot of the things you guys have done over the years and appreciate it. And if you say you're going to come and attend the festival, I mean, don't say it if you don't really think you're going to. But if you say you're going to attend the festival, that makes a difference.
Well, definitely, it's almost like you say in job interviews where there's like always certain things that sort of outline. I would say if I have two films and one says, I may not go, and one says they are, it's more likely you're going to choose that. If you have two, that equally good movies, but you only have room for one, you probably, I hate to say it, but you lean into the Florida one or whatever, the local or whatever. Or even if they're not local, they just say they're coming.
Yeah, I mean, this year we have films from Germany, all across the U.S.,
Canada,
Peru, Canada,
UK,
a couple from the UK, several from the UK.
Yeah, I think France. I want to say maybe one.
France. So kind of a scattered selection.
Yeah, and Ukraine. There's a couple from Ukraine actually.
Yeah, we've had some Ukrainian filmmakers come over the last couple of years as well for the festival. But the message is basically fill out all that information and add a personal note. Don't just copy and paste the same note that you send to every single film festival.
Yeah.
Like really take the effort to look at the website, see who it is, and say, hey, I looked at, Doug, you're the programmer, and Tony, you started this festival.
100%.
But whatever it might be, you don't have to stalk our Instagrams or anything, and then
but it does. It means you did a little more work. And really looked into what festivals you wanted to go to, and not just Sunscreen. You can do that with Gasparilla. You can do that with whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because it is, if I see a thing that says Doug and Tony, looking forward to, the festival, your eyes go, oh, they know my name. Okay.
Yeah,
this is great.
you did a little research. You did a little research. You're not just wildly submitting your film to different festivals.
And I also love it a lot of times if say someone told you, hey, go to Sunscreen, that would be a good one for you. Put that in there. Like, hey, I talked to Dave DeVore, whatever. I've seen those where like people.
Yeah,
say,
well, and quite a few times we'll get filmmakers to say, "Hey, I have a friend of mine who attended your festival last year, and they really talked about what a great experience it was with their film, blah blah blah." And so, because of that, now I'm submitting to you as well. And so, just whatever that personal touch is to make it personalized somewhat, and not just
It's like a job interview. It really is. It's we're interviewing you through FilmFreeway to see if you will be in our festival. That's really what it is. So if you don't fill all that out, I don't know anything about you or your movie. It's gonna, unless it blows me away, and I prompt to email them about it or something. But, and that's happened before too.
Yeah.
But I think it does hurt you more if you don't fill all that out.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, it really does depend on the film. Like, the film is
It
what we're
ultimately is
evaluating.
the
The film is what we're
Ultimately,
evaluating. But so many times, all things being equal, there are many films that are really good. We turn down a lot of good films.
I mean, I still have 20 that I would love to put in the festival.
Yeah,
we need an extra day next year, Tony.
I know. There's another
It's
dozen.
crazy.
There's another dozen feature films that I would 100% put in the festival because we really liked them. But you just don't have room for everything.
It's always a Sophie's choice at the end. You and me going back and forth on this one, and it's like you feel bad because you really like them.
Yeah, because you do, and you want.
And I've even emailed after some of these guys that just said, hey, I just want you to know I really did enjoy your film. Sorry it didn't get in because of time or whatever before.
Yeah, and I've had film festivals in the past, because Doug and I are filmmakers as well, and I've submitted to festivals where I've had a film that has won 25 awards at festivals, and then others you don't get into at all. And I've had a couple times they say, we really did like your film, but we just didn't have space for it.
Yeah.
And then that's just.
And that honestly, I always tell people, prepare for more of the probably not getting in it than whatever. Just to, your expectations shouldn't be, I am getting in this, because I think that's because I get emails also that are like, why didn't we get in? And they're angry at me, and that's fine. But
there are mad filmmakers. I was curious if there were going to be a mad filmker showing up tonight. They were like, my film didn't get into Sunscreen, and so I'm here.
I know, right?
to demand answers.
Yeah. No, they just hide behind their email.
Did we reject any of your films for Sunscreen this year? No? Okay, good. I didn't know if I needed to wear a bulletproof vest underneath my shirt tonight.
No, they're hiding behind their emails probably.
Yeah. Well, no, people are much braver behind an email. And so, those are just a few things, when you're kind of thinking about who to submit to and kind of what we look for. And then from the film perspective itself, you would be surprised how many films are very similar, either in theme or story, or just like a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's the example is probably in 21 and 22, 2021, 22. It was all pandemic films. Almost every film had something to do, which I get. That was what was going on at the time. But you do get to a point where you're like, let's tell another story. Let's not,
Yeah, I remember there was one year, I don't remember what year it was, where it seemed like every film that we got was a film about making a film. And it was like, why is everybody making films about making films this year? It's really strange. And it's I don't know if things hit the zeitgeist or people, emotionally are feeling certain ways, and it's a global kind of thing, but then people will submit like very similar films. And sometimes we'll get documentaries. We'll have like some sort of Florida environmental documentary telling a specific story, and then you'll have another one telling a Florida environmental story. And we're only a 4-day festival. We can't take every single one of those, and so we kind of choose like, all right, we'll take this one. And we've had filmmakers who will call up and be like, this is a Florida film about this environmental issue, and they're like, well, we have one almost exactly like yours.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, like thematically, like when people are telling their stories. But you have to tell the story that you want to tell, whatever that might be, whatever you're passionate about, whatever story you want to tell. Tell that story as best you can.
Tell the best story you can. Do something unique with it too. I think that always helps. Something that stands out. Make sure your audio is good. I think that's another thing.
From there are, as we start to talk a little more details about your films themselves, from a technical perspective, something that independent filmmakers, short filmmakers, short themselves on a lot of times is the sound. You know, if you don't have good sound, I mean, no one wants to sit through it and watch
Especially
it.
in a movie theater that has good speakers.
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
have
If
to
you're
think
sitting
about it.
in, you know, we screen our films at AMC
yeah.
theaters in St. Pete. You know, brand new remodeled, beautiful screens and projectors and great sound systems. And if you've submitted this short film with like,
Yeah.
you know, and we probably a lot of times won't take.
We won't, or we'll contact you and just say, is this final?
Yeah, we'll say,
Or
hey, is this the final version of your film? We like your film, but the audio is not very
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Are you going to send an updated version, you know, with better audio?
Yeah,
kind
and
of thing?
sometimes they, you know, that's the other reason they have a cover letter. Hey, my film's not done yet, but it will be done before your festival.
Yeah.
But I want to get it in before the date.
And that's a great point. So
And as a filmmaker, I understand that.
people will be trying to hit a deadline, and they'll say, hey, I wanted to get this in before the regular deadline because I know the price goes up, but, you know, our sound and color aren't done yet, so just keep that in mind, you know, and then we'll upload an updated version later. And sometimes then they'll send us an email saying, hey, I wanted to let you know that film I submitted 2 months ago, there's an updated version if you've already watched it with better sound and color. And we can go back and, you know, we may have already reviewed it,
Yeah.
but then we can go in and kind of take another look.
And just make sure, yeah. But I think that it definitely helps, like at least letting me know. As filmmakers, we understand. I mean, it takes a long time to do post-production. And, you know, we also end it at the end of January, you know, or in February. And you know, you may say, oh my gosh, I got to get it in before then, but my sound isn't done yet. It will be done in February or March. And that's fine, just let us know.
Yeah.
Or what I love is when people email us and say, after we've already selected them, they say, hey, I don't think my movie's going to be done. What do you guys think? And what we've done in the past is we just say, we love the movie, we'll put it in next year.
Yeah, so we actually
out.
had a feature film last year that we accepted into the festival, and the filmmakers contacted us and said, as much as we would love to screen, our post isn't going to be done yet. We're not going to be ready. And we're like, that's fine. We'll just give you a waiver code to resubmit next year. You've already paid once. Do it next year. And then, you know, and then they go back into, they're not automatically selected, but we did select that film again this year because we selected it last year. But it's great when the filmmaker's honest.
I'd rather you just tell me what's going on than, you know, pretend and then we're fighting to get your DCP by the time our tech, before she kills me.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a big thing
Yeah.
too. Is, you know, when you do get accepted to a film festival and the festival says your deadline is, you know, this date to get all of your materials in, it really is a
March
deadline.
24th for ours.
Yeah, March 24th for Sunscreen.
Yeah.
For the 2025.
Yeah.
And there's a reason behind that. You know, one, we have 224 films. And so every single film on a DCP needs to be tested because we don't just take your film and then throw it up and hope it plays okay. We will test. Our technical director.
Our tech does. I give
technical
her all the
director
credit for
Maxine really cares about the quality of the film, and will test every single film in the theater after it's been uploaded into the projectors. And so a lot of time and care goes into that. And so there's a reason, because filmmakers will say, well, I went to such and such festival and I was able to give them my DCP the day before my screening or a couple hours before my screening. We're like, well,
Good luck to them.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that, but you know, it's not.
But I think
possible.
also as a filmmaker, you should want that. You should want that quality control. Because I wouldn't trust I mean, I've had movies in the festival, and I always do. I always go and sit in. Like for I Feel Fine last year, I sat in with Maxine on the test screening of it to make sure that it was good. Because as a filmmaker, the last thing you want to do, any of us want to do, is have either our movie not show or in the middle of it, it just stops or something weird happens that isn't even, you know, our fault or the theater's fault.
Yeah, and strange things can happen. There was a server crash last year, and one block wasn't able to finish on AMC's
Unfortunately, hopefully,
servers.
but
We
hopefully
did
it
a
won't happen
replay
again.
later. But, you know, beyond that, so the other things that, you know, you're a filmmaker, you're submitting to festivals, some kind of, you know, rules that you should think of. When you're making a short film, what's the first word in short film? Short.
Make it short.
and there's a reason that, you know, again, we get 700 films, other festivals get 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 films. When the way that we do it is we have a team of probably 15 screeners that watch the film. So myself, Doug, the board of directors, plus, you know, 15 people.
Yeah, about 15 of them, yeah.
And we assign films to people. So like, okay, great, July 1, we start accepting films. Here are 10 films for screener A. You get 1 feature and 9 shorts. Once you've completed those, let us know. We'll give you another 10 films. And that's a way for us to kind of keep...
And they're all, what also I'd like people to know is that they're all ages. We have people ranging from, late teens to that are part of our
film
screeners.
students, film
Yeah, and film students, I was going to say at the end of this, emails, if you're interested, we're always looking for people.
always looking for screeners.
Always looking for screeners. But we have, college students all the way up to, people in their 70s and beyond even that screen, which is good because I think it gives us that wide variety.
Yeah, and we try and
subjects.
have and David, you've got a question. Or are you just stretching? No, I got a question. Okay, well, let me get through this. We'll get through this, and then we'll do some questions.
Yep.
And what we try and do is we try and have every film watched more than once by different people. So if you're a 65-year-old newly retired person who has plenty of time and you want to watch films, but you hate horror films, we're not going to give you horror films to watch.
Exactly.
Because you're going to rate them really badly.
That's why I said the thing about the genre. You need to put your genre in there, at least give some sort of indication. Because sometimes I can't watch the movies before I give them to somebody.
Right.
Because we're in the middle of all that. So if I'm signing, I'm just going through the list and saying, here's 10 movies. But if I know they don't like that.
And we'll space it out too, and we'll look at, there are films where we look at, because the way that it works within FilmFreeway, when a filmmaker, when a screener rates the film, they're giving it on a 1 to 10, right? They give it 1 to 10, and then they write notes about what they thought. And they can write, audio was a 7, acting was a 9, and it gives you your average. And we'll take a look at the average, and let's say a film says it's an average 7.7. We're like, okay, and you click, and again, this is what film festivals do. We look at everything. We don't just look at the average. We who watched this film?
100%.
And you have one person gave it a 9, another person gave it an 8.5, and somebody else gave it a 4. And we're like, well, who is one of our screeners that gave it a 4? Oh, it's so and so that just this genre does not jive with.
Yeah, they're not the audience for it.
Right, and so we throw the 4 out, and then we'll look at the 8.5 and the 9. Be like, okay, 2 of our screeners really like this because they just dug it. They thought it was cool.
Seems like everything I like, everyone else hates usually.
Yeah, and then there was there's one film that I really liked. I gave
remember
it like a 9.
texted me and
Everybody else was like 4,
Yeah.
3, but it was a foreign film, and it was in German, and it was kind of a little bit of an erotic thriller.
Yeah.
And so it's just not some people's cup of tea, but I liked it. I thought it was really.
And we want to, you don't want to have this, like you said earlier, we don't want the same films over and over again. It's nice to have those interesting, different films.
Yeah, you try and get that variety of films there. So, David, you had a question.
I was just going to ask, because you said that you screen each film to make sure that it's good. And you said as a filmmaker that you like to be there. Do you ever actually have the filmmakers come in to see the films as they're being tested?
So the question is, do we ever have the filmmakers come in and see the films as they're being tested? Actually, tested in the theater before the screening. Oh, for when we're doing the testing.
Yeah.
It not usually. It's usually because it's like depends on the theater manager's schedule and the technical director's schedule when the theater's not open, because when they are open, they're running movies all day since we do it at an AMC. So they're usually in off times. And if we did do that, we couldn't schedule that around like every filmmaker wanting to be in.
We'll have people come to during the weekend, say, hey, my film plays tomorrow morning. Can I, whatever? And it's like, no, we can't schedule that. Your film's in already scheduled, because that's the other thing now, especially because a lot of those are people from out of town and stuff. But it's like now with AMC especially, everything's scheduled. So even our blocks of stuff are scheduled beforehand, so they play automatically
in the computer.
It's like a playlist
in the playlist in the projector, basically.
And then if you play it, and I've seen this happen, if you actually play it earlier, you sometimes will pause wherever you stopped if you can't, because at that point you're never going to be able to watch the whole movie because they don't even get there until like half an hour before we do. And then the movie later will start in that spot that you ended it, and then it creates a whole mess with it. So
computers have made our lives simpler and more complicated. At the same time. It used to be when we screened from Blu-ray DVDs, and we had stacks of Blu-rays in the projection booth.
We had to do a lot of tests and stuff. But I will say also, just I trust Maxine a lot. Like, she is all about quality control, and she will call you or email you, about your film and say, I watched this, it's not working. can you give me another copy? And then she'll do another test of it. So I do trust her, and that's why I try to tell people.
Yeah, that's
like,
why we
trust-
have a technical director.
You know, she's there to do that, you know. So I trust her, and, you know, honestly, other than that thing with the theater,
Yeah.
I've never really seen a problem, an issue.
Yeah. Well, and then so I'll give some more kind of tips and tricks for getting your film into festivals. So, you know, when we first started, we talked a little bit about do your research on the festivals that you're going to submit to and see what types of films that they've played in previous years. You know, if there are genre festivals, horror, comedy, action, LGBT, whatever, and that's your film is one of those, you know, you can dial in for those particular festivals as well. But something that you can do too as a filmmaker, FilmFreeway has marketing options. So what that is, and I've done this in the past as a filmmaker, is I've got a short film that I'm submitting to film festivals, and I can pay, I don't know what it is, $70 or $100 for my film to be featured in an email that goes to all of the festivals, all 14,000
I get them all day, every day.
festivals.
Spotlights.
And so we
Spotlights.
get those spotlight things, and you get that email, and you can click on it and see what films are submitting, and then you can offer as a festival to give that filmmaker a discount code or a waiver or whatever. And so what I'll do when I'm submitting is I'll do that, and I'll get 100 offers of discounts from festivals. And usually what I'll do is I'll if it's like 50% or more, I'll take a serious look at it, and then I take a look at the festival and I see, okay, what is this festival? Where is it? You know, who does this festival? And then doing it that way, I'm able to submit to sometimes 3 times as many festivals as I would normally submit to, and submit to festivals that you'd never think of.
Oh, yeah, because maybe you didn't even know about one, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, oh, this could be cool. Or I have family in Michigan, so I'm going to go up to Michigan.
Right, exactly.
Visit them, and so that'd be great.
And the other thing is now you already know that they're interested in your film before they've seen it.
Yes.
So if they're going to take the time and effort to send you a fee waiver, there's something about your film that interests them that they want you to send it to.
You
the
definitely have a
festival.
better chance. I do want to iterate because I got an email. It doesn't guarantee, though. Just having a waiver code does not guarantee your movie's in. It, to me, means someone took interest in it, they liked it, but then you also, I mean...
You still have to watch it after
I'm
you
not,
send
yeah,
it, yeah.
someone, not only I have to watch it, but you want 2 or 3 other people to watch it just to make sure, like we said earlier, you know, there's movies that I like that everyone says, no, this movie's not good, and then there's movies that other people like that I'm like, I don't really get it, but okay, that's cool. You know, and then that's why you have to use the ratings, and there's more to it than just, you know, oh, I like this movie, I'm putting it in. There's obviously more. But also having a waiver does not mean, because I got an email today basically saying, why did you waste my time by having...
Well, and it's not real.
send me a
I
code?
would say, I don't know how much of a time waste it is to go.
No, I know.
Click,
That's the thing.
click,
All it was
send.
here's I think, and it wasn't even me. It was one of our screeners, which
Yeah.
was great. I gave him a code to give it to somebody because he said, hey, I saw this movie in Nashville. And I figured out what it was. And he said, hey, I would love to show this to my team. But for some reason, they thought that meant like, oh, we're in that festival, which can't be the case.
But by doing that marketing thing with Film
Oh, yeah,
Freeway,
yeah.
you know, you get more eyeballs on and it saves you some money.
And
really.
it saves money. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you're a filmmaker, that you've got a bunch of different options. You can have like a solo email that goes to the festivals. You can be as a part of, you know, an email that has like 10 different films or whatever it might be. Film Freeway, you just log into your account and you can look and see, and they give you a bunch of different options, different price points too. Some that'll cost more, some that cost a lot. But I've found when I've done it that it's worked out well for me, and I've gotten into festivals, and then I've won awards at those same festivals and had good experiences too.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
You never know.
Yeah, but that's one way, because it can be expensive, and why you want to be judicious, you know, when you're trying to figure out, okay, what festivals am I submitting to, and where am I going
Well,
with this
also
thing?
as a filmmaker, something I tell people all the time, have a marketing budget in your budget, even for a short film. Have something, even if it's only $500, but know, you know, because I hear so many, when we get emails about it too, hey, spend all the money I have on my thing, can I get a waiver to submit, which, you know, is great, but it's like, think about that ahead of time. You want that, even on a feature, you really do. I mean, you know,
Yeah, if
you
you're
wanna
making
spend a
a
lot.
feature film, even if you're making a small budget feature film, say $500 for
Yeah.
for film submission fees.
Yeah, and to go to festivals. So, you know, think about that stuff.
Yeah, you're going to travel later on too.
Because that's the other thing is when you get to the festival, I'm sure we'll talk, it's how promoting and getting people to come see it, you know, can't all rely on the festival.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, also we talked about earlier, you know, when you're in FilmFreeway, they have all those things you can fill out and film out. Make sure you put production stills. So make sure while you're shooting your short or feature, you are getting behind the scenes production stills that can be used for marketing purposes. Make sure you've got a poster. Create
A trailer.
an EPK, an electronic press kit, and include that. You know, there was one festival that I went to years ago. I can't remember which one it was, but they were really great, and they were like, hey, if you don't have an EPK, here's exactly what we want in an EPK. Make it and get it to us because we use all this information. And I was like, oh, that's really good that they do that because it is something that, you know, people pay attention to and really does help. The trailers makes a big difference as well.
And because we transfer all that over to our schedule and stuff too. Like if you go on our schedule, there are some that just have their name and there's no poster. So hopefully they'll. I mean, we've asked them to send us. But
even if you don't have a budget for a poster, but you got to go to Fiverr and you're paying a Bulgarian graphic designer to make your poster or something, you know, get something made because it does make a difference. You want something to represent your film, even if you're just taking some production stills that you should be taking and you're having somebody use those to create a poster or whatever it might be. It makes a big difference.
Well, yeah, because I think people will scroll past you. I think, especially in stuff like that, if they don't see a poster, they'll just scroll. Well, yeah, okay, what's the next one? Because it doesn't tell you anything about the movie. Just like at a movie theater. Why do you think they put posters outside the movie theater? So when you're walking by, you're like, oh, I want to see that movie.
Yeah. So I know we've talked a lot about a lot of the other little things besides the actual content of a film, right? So these are reasons why film festivals will take films beyond the content of what the film itself actually is. So I mean, I think it should go without saying, right? Is that you want a film that's, you know, that's well written, that's well acted, that sounds good, that tells a good story, you know, all of those elements of filmmaking. We can say that, but then the execution of it sometimes can be, you know, a different story. From the time you start making your film till the time you're done with it, it is generally something completely different from what you thought it would be when you got started.
100%. I also think for me personally, if you're making, especially if you're making a short film, kind of already be thinking about the film festivals that you want to be in, or if that's where you're going to go with it. You know, like if you're going to make a film, why am I making this film? You know, do I think, you know, not every film can be picked up and be on Netflix or whatever. So is it going to be a festival darling, or is it going to be, you know, something I put? And I think it's something that you should think about even early on.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point from a feature film perspective. You know, a filmmaker will make a feature film, and then there's really, you know, is this a film that will get distribution and make money, or is this a film that will play film festivals? Because those are two very different things. Some yes, crossover, right?
I was gonna say, sometimes
but you know, those are your Sundance films that star XYZ actors that are all recognizable and repped at big agencies.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of your festival film. I mean, I would say we have 19 features this year. Of the 19 features that we have, two or three have name recognizable actors.
Three or four. No, yeah, right.
Something like
Yeah.
that. But the rest are films wherever they're from, whether it's, you know, Germany or local or LA or wherever else. They're feature films that don't have these recognizable names. Maybe it's got somebody who is a guest star on an episode of Friends at one point in time or whatever kind of thing, but not like, you know, names and faces that you recognize. And so great acting.
And you can
great
put
quality.
that in FilmFreeway. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like we have a film that has someone who was on Park and Rec, I think. Parks and Rec, I think. And they put it in there, and I went, oh, let me look this person up, you know, because how else would you know a lot of times? Even on the poster, they're not always there if they're only in like one scene.
And distribution is a whole other talk. We've already done sort of a distribution workshop, and so if you want to go back and look on the Sunscreen YouTube channel and find that distribution workshop, you'll hear us talking about, you know, getting distribution for the film. Yep. But you know, when you're submitting to festivals, it's different. You know,
it's very different.
Things.
Yeah, and that's why I think it also for me goes thinking about it early, because you get into post, as we said, even with features, if you give us a 2-hour feature, it's harder to program.
Yeah.
Unless
Well,
it's really good.
And we will say from the feature film perspective as well, the different philosophies of film festivals. So we love true indie films. True indie in that, it's not CAA or WME calling up and saying, hey, here's a film that is going to be distributed in a month. It's coming out in theaters in a month, or it's going into streaming in a month, but it has these name actors in it, and it played at Sundance and whatever else. We're actually really not interested for Sunscreen and
Gasparilla can have those.
those films. Well, and that's
why we're different.
And that's kind of how, from a local festival perspective, how we're a little bit different. Gasparilla really does like those type of films, and they do great with them. And they get great,
that's why
great people coming.
I've even had this conversation with Tyler before. We are very different festivals. People think we're kind of competitors, friendly competitors, if anything, or even not even. I go every year.
Yeah, and so
You
when he says Tyler, he means Tyler Martinowitz, who's the Tampa Film Commissioner and part of the board of directors for Gasparilla. And Tyler used to be the programming director for Sunscreen years ago as well. And so we work hand in hand with local festivals like that, where we'll reach out and say, hey, what are you putting into yours? What are we putting in ours? Because you don't want to overlap on things. But festivals have different philosophies. Some festivals will license films where they're paying a licensing fee to a film for that to screen in their festival, and that'll be what. And so their features, they're all licensed, and maybe they'll sprinkle in some of those, kind of submitted through FilmFreeway film festivals. Whereas we don't pay licensing fees at all, and we haven't in many years. We did it, maybe for some different foreign films back years ago. But we really only take films that we don't have to pay licensing fees to, that are true like indie films.
Yeah, and I think that's, it kind of makes it more fair that way, too. It's like we're paying for one and not another one. It just doesn't make sense to me, at least.
Yeah. So how about some questions? I know people have some questions. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Questions on the video.
Well, thank you. Hello. I'm Miranda, by the way. We know each other. Hello. Nice to meet you. Hi. So you may have already covered this, but is there a sweet spot of time for the short films that you ideally would like to see?
Yes. So generally we say under 15 minutes.
Okay. 8 to 12?
And then
Okay.
Doug says 8 to 12. But here's a weird little thing, and I don't know why. So if anybody remembers, growing up watching like Bugs Bunny and those Warner Brothers cartoons and all those cartoons like that, well, back in the day, those used to play in theaters before the feature film, and they're all 7 minutes long. And for some reason, back when they were figuring this out, they figured 7 minutes was the perfect length for that short film that they would play before features. It just, granted, attention spans are different now than they used to be, but 7 minutes also seems to be a really great length. But honestly, we'll get high school student films that are 3 minutes. If we see a 3-minute film come in, we're like, all right, 3 minutes. Like, this is easy. We can put a 3-minute film in the festival. Like, if you make like a super short film that's like 3-4 minutes or something like that, like your chances of getting into a festival are like 90%. Like if it's halfway decent, like the shorter it is. But if you're 15, once you hit 15, that's when it's stretching it.
You have to think of a block as like an hour to an hour and a half usually. Like that's how ours are at least. And almost like a feature length, right? An hour and a half. So the shorter it is, the more we can have in there, which also is great. And you're watching more content, more people are going to come out and see it. But if you start getting into that 20, 25 minute range, all of a sudden you're taking up a third or, of that block. And so it doesn't mean if it's really good, it doesn't mean it's not going to get in at all. There's many that are really good. Yeah. And a lot of times what we do now with those is we put those together as like 2 or 3 in one block just together. But I always say, and even with features, it should be, an hour and a half is, I think, perfect for a festival. 90 minutes. Obviously you can go a little over here and there, even a little under, but it just helps. Again, at least the way our philosophy's kind of always been is like every block's like about an hour and a half, and that allows us to play 224 films.
And you have to think about the audience as well. So if you have an audience that's attending a film festival, usually the audience attending a film festival, one, it's filmmakers that are going to be at the festival, or it's local filmmakers from the community. But then it's just people too who love films and like, well, I love indie films. I'm going to go festival, and so that that audience comes and they're sitting in the theater and they're watching a short film block, and if there's a short in there that's really long, it starts starting to drag, you start to lose that audience, and then that audience doesn't want to come back to your festival. And so from a festival perspective, we're looking at what can we do to make sure that our audience wants to stay in there. And again, there are always exceptions. I think we have 5 films that are in that 25-minute range this year, and one of them is spectacular. Like at 25 minutes, the El Rebote, the one shot in Barcelona that was just really good. And by a 24-year-old NYU. No, it didn't, but it didn't feel like it was 25 minutes, right? It was paced well, like just everything was high quality about it. But it's hard to do, right? You're making essentially what is a half-an-hour episode of television, for whatever television is nowadays. But that's what you're making if you're making something that's 20 minutes or longer. And so think about how much money they spend on just a half an hour of television. They spend a couple $1 million on that. And you're trying to do it for, your $5,000 budget or whatever it might be. It's a lot. But yeah, shorter is always better. From a feature film perspective, same thing. If you've got a 2-hour and 20-minute feature film, and we have, our audience coming in from the area that was sitting down watching it, and they start walking out because it's too long, because they've got other things to do with their day. I don't even want to go to a paying film anymore that's, yeah, right. They're forever long. So and hopefully that answered your question to a certain extent. Yeah.
It does, and if it's okay, I'm going to ask a 2-parter, and then I'll pass the mic. I promise. And I may have missed this also because I came in just a couple minutes. Are you watching the films on a rolling basis as soon as the submissions open, and so it's more preferential to potentially be seen and get chosen sooner based on your theme? That you said you had a lot of repeat themes. So is it beneficial for you to submit earlier? And second, do you have more preference for films shot in Tampa Bay?
Yes to the first question, for sure. Well, no, I mean, obviously we look at every single movie that comes in, even if you're last. But at the same time, I feel like, especially, if you're getting it in at the end, we've made a lot of our selections. Not most, but a lot of our selections. So you really have to stand out for us to go, okay, we're going to make sure this is in there.
Yeah, when submissions open in July, if you're within that first I think July to beginning of September is early bird, and then we've got regular submission deadline. And the earlier you get your film in, the more engaged everybody is.
More eyes can
and
get
more
on it.
eyes, get on it. And it's just, once you get to January and you've watched 600 movies, you're like, whew,
Yeah.
how many more we got to do? And that's just human nature, right? We still watch every single film, watch it, all the way through, multiple people watching it, but you get a little burnt,
Yeah.
the closer to the
Well,
end.
and then you're spending a lot of your during the holidays when you're slow at work or whatever. I'm always watching. That's usually my time when there's nothing else going on. I'm watching a bunch of movies. But yeah, like you said, then by January you're like, all right, let's wrap this thing up and let's start picking these movies. Because I start making the schedule in December, but only where things might be, and it's not. Really
we do start roughing out and marking things selected, before submissions are done. We're like, okay, I really like this one, and if we're doing that to kick something off the list that we already like, to have something replace it, just earlier is always better.
Yeah, and then what was the second question? Oh, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean we have 40,
Yeah.
42, 44 local films, so absolutely.
And we support local filmmakers. I mean, we are Florida filmmakers, local filmmakers. So, I do look at that and where they're coming from. A lot of times, they're Clearwater. Okay, this will be good.
We make an effort. We always in the notes, local film, Florida film. Those are two things that they always tag. In our tags, we have a little drop-down list at the very top: Sunscreen alumni, local film, Florida film. Those are our top 3 tags, and then everything else is alphabetical order. From like I said, whether it's women filmmaker, LGBT.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't guarantee. I mean, trust me, I'm getting emails. So I'm a Florida filmmaker. Why didn't you put me in? But it does definitely help. And we have two blocks of we call it Made in Florida films.
Yeah.
So we for short films. So and that helps too, because maybe it's not. It's a good film, but maybe it's not the best film ever. But we want to play it, and we're like, oh, let's play this. Or if it's someone we know, or whatever, we can kind of have a place
we definitely
for that.
support. We definitely support local. We really do.
Yes.
We play more local films than any other festival in Tampa Bay. I think I can be pretty safe in saying that. Probably. Yeah, we do a pretty good job with that. More questions?
Thanks for coming, dude. If I had known when I was talking to you earlier, I would have told you to bring it with you.
I knew. I was
I
going
didn't
to
even
say the
think
same
about
thing. That's funny. Yeah. So, I mean, my intention, like for my film, is to get distribution. I think most people want to make money with their film, right? So, my goal in putting it out into the film festivals was to get as many eyeballs on it as possible. But for the purpose not only of it being seen, but also because I want to get to distribution, I want to get to making money with the film. Do you guys recommend like certain festivals? Like everyone, of course, you can go for Sundance and cons and whatever, but at the end of the day, what are the chances of you getting in there? Does it make sense to go for the big ones? Should you go for the small ones and get lots of little ones? Should you go in between a little of everything? What do you think? How's the best way to kind of spread it around?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit early on, in referencing Sundance, in that, Sundance, they're getting the majority of their feature films from the agencies. And so if you did manage to get into Sundance, it still doesn't guarantee a distribution deal, but it obviously makes a difference when you're approaching distributors. There's really, you've got your top tier festivals, Sundance, Cannes, Tribeca, Toronto, Telluride, festivals like that. Then kind of like a second tier festival, and then sort of a third and a fourth and a fifth tier. And I think we fall into that sort of third tier regional festival. I guess who would you say is like a fourth tier festival? I guess you're probably going to say maybe like Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, yeah, or
still some bigger name festivals with like big budgets that are $1 million plus budgets for their festivals. And there are distributors that will go to a wide variety of them. We have guys that come to Sunscreen, have come for many years, but distribution is such a
crapshoot.
Yeah, and because the industry's changed so much with streaming and the way everything's changed, and I think we've talked about it a little bit before, is that a lot of options now are self-distribution is better than what you think of from traditional distribution.
I know people making money off Tubi.
Yeah, well, and in
decent
traditional distribution, again, I'll reference the Sunscreen workshop we did earlier. That's on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, go back and watch that 90-minute workshop. But to kind of summarize a little bit, YouTube right now is the largest streaming platform in the world. Not just for watching, bloggers and how to fix your washer and dryer and, whatever other kind of stuff you want to watch and news and everything else, but for feature films. Like, that is where a lot of feature films are going. There are channels that'll be like, this is the horror channel on YouTube, and they'll have 200 films that are feature films on their horror channel. And people figured out, a few years ago, it was like, oh, hey, if you have a channel, why can't I just start putting feature films on my channel, collect advertising revenue? And so that has become one of the most profitable outlets for filmmakers, is literally just YouTube on these, channels, blocks of films, basically.
Well, that's why we've also added, I think it's in our list of, if you're already on YouTube, we probably won't take you.
Yeah,
and people ask that question
from a festival perspective, you can't.
And I think a lot of festivals will do that because that really is distribution now.
Yeah, and then if you think of traditional distribution, I'm a sales agent, love your film, great, I'm going to put it out there in the world, I'm going to keep 15 to 20% from what I sell, as I sell the international territories, great, I get that first. I also have my marketing expenses, that comes off the top first.
And then you get nothing.
And the thing is too, is then they also don't market your film. You still have to market the film yourself anyways. So you're still the one who has to put in the time and the effort to do the marketing, to develop kind of that plan. And so you're already giving away 15 or 20% of your film, and you're still doing the marketing for your film. So in a lot of cases, it's like, why don't I just do it all myself? Put it out there, using like a platform like, why am I blanking on the?
I can't remember what it's called.
Film Hub, yes,
Film Hub, thank you.
Like a Film Hub. Years ago, there were several others. Film Hub seems to be the one right now. Or just getting it onto some of these YouTube channels, reaching out directly to them, get it onto Amazon yourself, Vimeo, excuse me. So distribution, it's not getting any easier.
Well, and there are festivals, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. You may actually know better than I do. There are festivals who have supposedly people that are there watching and to buy movies. There are not even the big one. I mean, big ones they say that, but
but buying movies is not what.
No, I know. I'm just saying you'll see that. So be careful. You can look that up. I'm sure on FilmFreeway too.
And I think to circle that back around to when you're submitting to festivals as well, there are some festivals that are they're just money grabs, and so they'll say it's an online festival. I'm always skeptical. You know, in 2020, most festivals had to do online,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or a lot did.
But no.
But now these festivals that are just online film festivals, and you have to pay them to submit, they just want your money. And they're just, film festivals are not money-making ventures, trust me. But people find ways to kind of try and rig the system. Or there are festivals that are just awards factories where you submit to a certain festival, and if you look, you can submit to different awards categories.
Yeah.
And there's like
Yeah.
100 awards categories that you submit your film to, and you pay whatever it is, and then what do you know? You won an award because you're just paying for an
You
award
basically just
from
paid
that
for that,
festival.
yeah.
But they don't do actual physical screenings or anything like that. Stay away from those as well. Those aren't legitimate festivals. You know, just do the research to see what's a legitimate festival before you submit.
I don't need the mic. Having been somebody who just put a festival on FilmFreeway, they are much more picky about like pictures of real venues.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Become, I think post-pandemic, they recognize that and they're very much.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good to hear,
Well,
yeah.
That's good that Film
Yeah.
Freeway is doing that. So he was saying that Film Freeway is policing to make sure you're in a real venue. And
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it does make me skeptical when it's like, where is
well, that's why
this? Where's it
if you do the marketing thing and festivals are sending you offers, you know, that's where you do a little research and say, where does this actually take place? You get a lot from India and Russia. You probably avoid those.
Yeah. Or Middle East.
Yeah. Just because they just end up being scams in
Yeah.
my experience.
Because they expect you're not going to come.
Not
so-
anything against those two countries. I'm just saying.
No, but I think they just know you're not going to probably come to
Right.
those, or they just do it online or whatever.
Yeah. More questions? Someone has a question. You drove all the way from Ocala to be
Yeah.
here. Certainly you have questions for us, or have we just answered all of your questions?
All right, I'll say.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys have answered, everything that I had to ask. You guys answered them. So going back to the screeners that you guys have now, are they watching from from a filmmaker's perspective, or just okay, I have no background in film and I'm just watching this?
Yeah, we have both actually. So we'll have, cinephiles who are just lovers of film, who just want to watch films and love indie films and love short films and love everything. And then we'll have professional filmmakers who, that's what they do, is they make films, and they've made a lot of films over the years. And we have, film students who are in college, and so everybody watches it with a different eye, which is why we want it watched by more than one person. We don't just want one person to watch your film. And because we do, who's good, a lot of the things that when we decide a film is like, what is our audience in St. Pete, Tampa? Who are the people that are coming, and what do they want to see in this area? A lot of them are just people who like film. A lot of local filmmakers, a lot of filmmakers that are attending the festival from out of town, and so it's that wide variety. And we try and have a broad perspective of everybody that watches the films. Yeah, people will just come in and watch the festival. And we want different, as far as our screeners, we want different ages, ethnicities, different backgrounds, socioeconomic. Like, we try and make sure it's different for everybody that's watching it, because everyone has a different perspective, because it's very subjective when you're reviewing or rating a film on what you like is personal to you, whether you like something or not. And so we try and have different people watch everything.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And I also have one more question. So I believe that, as far as a benefit to entering or submitting it to a film festival, it sounds like distribution would be one. I'm assuming. Apart from that, and apart from networking, what would you all say are some additional benefits of submitting your film to film festivals, opposed to? I mean, I know YouTube is grand. I know personally I would much rather watch a film in a theater. But what would you guys say would be your top 3 benefits?
Well, that's a big thing too. Is I love seeing my movies in the theater, right? So I think, even, and not to toot our horn, but we show our movies at AMC, all of them, even the short films, and that I think is a great experience for people. And I've heard a lot of people tell me that, because sometimes you go, like, this is a beautiful screen, but there's times, so this would be great too. I mean, it's basically a movie screen. But, you know, there's also, like, I've been to hotels where you're in a conference room watching movies on a TV. And I'm not knocking them. It's just like it's not the same experience. So, you know, I think that's something to look for, too. What do you want out of the festival as well? You know, when you're going through FilmFreeway, looking at festivals, what do you want out of it? You know, like, we're known for our panels. We are. Like people say all the time, our panels. You know, we're known for our networking events. We're known for a lot of those things. But there's festivals who are known for that or known for other things. You know, get what you want out of the festival. Because, right? It's not just, you know, oh, my movie's in it. Oh, that's great. But get something out of it. Like, go there for a purpose.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's great too, and I think, you know, for me, one of the top reasons one of the reasons I started the festival back 20 years ago, and one of the reasons I still travel to other film festivals around the world, is the networking aspect of meeting other filmmakers, other people in the industry, and without fail, every single year at Sunscreen, there are multiple people who meet each other, and then because of meeting at Sunscreen, they work together, and then they go make a film. It's happened every year for 20 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
Every single year. And it's multiple times. And so then those filmmakers will get together, they meet filmmakers, you vibe, and then we're like, let's make a film, and so we can submit it back to Sunscreen next year or to other festivals. And so, you know, that collaborative environment experience, you know, filmmaking is a collaborative process. You have to work with other people to get your work done, and you want to find, you know, you might have your people, but you can also find more people that are your people when you attend festivals. And it's, to me, that's the best part, is really the networking aspect. I mean, you know, networking is like, people are like, oh, I hate networking. It's like but, you know, don't think of it that way. It's like, you're just making friends. You're just, you know, enjoying yourself. You're going to a party, and whether you drink or don't drink, you know, you're just talking to random people and watching films together and sitting next to somebody in a workshop. And next thing you know, you got a workshop buddy that you go to all the different workshops with and everything. It's just you know, it's a fun communal experience, which I'm glad we've all moved back into the real world, and, you know, away from, you know, the 1 or 2 years of kind of, you know, the online stuff for everything. So, and one story I like to tell people, like, went for the Cannes Film Festival. My first year in Cannes was 2013, and I was getting a falafel at 5 o'clock in the morning after being out drinking all night, and talking to the guy standing next to me in line, and he was the executive producer for The King's Speech that had just won the Oscar for Best Picture, and we were just standing there, and you just never know who you're going to run into and who you're going to talk to while you're at these things, basically.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I 100% agree. The networking at you guys' event is top tier.
And it's just fun. Like, frankly, like, it's fun, right? You get to go to cool parties. You get to hang out with a lot of people and watch movies. Like, I mean, and if you've got a film, it's fun if you're just attending, but if you've got a film in the festival too, and you've got that filmmaker badge that says filmmaker on it, and people are like, oh, you made a film? What film did you make? Ooh, you're a filmmaker, you know? I mean, who doesn't want to experience that, right? Even if it's just a little festival in Podunk, Iowa somewhere.
I went to one in Ohio one time. This was probably 2009. It was a short film I had. I didn't know what to expect, but again, they had really good, you know, events. I mean, the screenings were okay, but it was really about the networking, and I still talk to some of those filmmakers, and, you know, to this day, you know, we're all doing different things, but yeah. So, that's always what I tell people. I'm like, just come, if anything, come. Even if your film didn't make it in, go to the festival. You know, go and, you know, do the networking thing. Like, I get it, it's disappointing. You know, you're mad at me for not putting it in, and that's fine, and you can tell me that, or, you know, whatever, but come and enjoy yourself. I think you will, because I've done that before where I didn't get in, but I still went to the festival, because why not? You know, it's like, you know, that shouldn't be the only reason you're there. You know, it's like I've met and seen even filmmakers that just go and see their film, and I'm like, go watch all the films. Doesn't make sense to me, like, because you never know where you're going to get inspired. You've seen your film a million times.
I think that's a great point too. There are filmmakers, and it'll happen this year, where the filmmaker will fly in from out of town for just the day of the festival for their film. They'll watch their film only, and then they'll leave the next day. I'm like, well, that's no fun. I mean, you didn't get to experience anything. You didn't meet anybody. You didn't watch anybody else's films. It's kind of selfish. I mean, if you've got things to do, you're getting married the next day or whatever, you know, I mean. Yeah, or even if it's a short film, you watch one short film block and then you left, and then yeah, you want to do the whole thing. It makes such a big difference.
I've had it where I've seen a film. I mean, obviously, I watch almost all of them, but they also get jumbled in my head by the time we get to the actual festival. But you're watching it again, you're like, oh, I really need to find out that person's here. I really want to talk to them about this movie. And then you find out, oh, they're here. Okay, cool. So then I just sit and talk. You know, you meet somebody new and you say, hey, how did you do this shot? How did you know? And it can be inspiring too, especially as a filmmaker. You can be inspired by someone else's awesome, thing that you never thought about, and you're like, I'm going to do that in my next film, or I'm going to work with this person to do something cool.
Yeah. No. And there are people who will say, well, I'll go to that festival when I have a film in. It's like, all right, I guess I'll go watch the Bucks when I'm on the team. You still have a good time just going to the stadium and hanging out and watching the game or whatever. I mean, why not go experience and enjoy the whole thing, and don't kind of put so much pressure on yourself. It's like people have literally told me, well, I'll go to Sundance when I have a film in Sundance, and it's like, I guess you're not going. It's hard. It's really hard.
Go without a film. They just go because of the experience. Yeah, and that's what it is. More questions?
Yeah, actually, so it's funny, actually, I had that experience that you were talking about, Doug. I saw a film at a film festival, and they did a period piece, and I was always told it was impossible to do it. They're too expensive, and they did it for a crazy low budget. And I'm going to be talking to those filmmakers now to find out, how did they accomplish that?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's definitely, I'm learning every day. I mean, we're all learning, right? You never stop learning, really, especially, and if you have, then you're doing something wrong, I think, honestly. But I love, seeing stuff like that, where I'm like, how did they do that wait, what was your budget? $100,000, what, how? And then you find out little tricks, and then the next movie you make, you've saved yourself $100,000 or something, because you're like, oh, now I know how to do this without spending any, a lot of money and millions of dollars on it. So, yeah, I mean, it's happened so many times to me over the years. Even before I was a programmer, I was still working with Sunscreen for 10 years before. And, that's the biggest thing for me was watching the movies, talking to the filmmakers, and going to the parties.
And I did, I'm sorry, were you going to add to that? I was going to ask, so there are those film festivals out there where you create a movie specifically to put into a film festival. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on those types of festivals?
Like a 48-hour festival kind of thing?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are fun. Those are great. A lot of times we'll have the 48-hour film festival challenge happens, and then after people make their films, they go and they submit those to more festivals, and they do, get into a bunch of different festivals. Yeah, those are always fun. It's always a fun experience to do something like that.
Cool. Other questions?
Any other questions? No? Did we cover everything? Do you know now does everybody know how to get your shorter feature film into film festivals? You have all the expertise.
Honestly, I didn't know about the marketing packages for filmmakers.
Yeah.
I missed the first half because I was, again, working the door. But I want to thank you guys. I'm Greg Perkins here from FMX, the department that is collaborating with these guys in the Film Animation New Media at UT. But thank you for coming out. I know it's a beautiful day, and it's really quiet here on campus because it's during spring break, but I'm just happy to have you here.
And we have
So quiet.
we have another workshop next week.
We do.
Yeah, next week is alternative funding, crowdfunding, and grants for your films. Because people always want to know about, how do I get money for my film, and they always think I have to go talk to an investor and get money.
Yeah.
And there are other ways.
I'm talking to Darwin right now about getting a grant from Darwin's helped me get a
Yeah,
grant.
so
one of the guys
crowdfunding
from
and
there.
grants, that'll be March 18th. The 18th, right? Yeah, what is today, the 11th?
Yeah.
Yes, the 18th.
So the 18th, yes.
18th here at the University of Tampa. If you're watching this on YouTube, you've missed it, probably. But you can watch it on the next video then, because that one will be up as well. So thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
And
Really
we'll see you soon.
appreciate it. Thanks.